Welcome to the Latino Podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities with legal, political, and community leaders and visionaries. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Latino, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities. We feature Latino lawyers, leaders, judges, community activists, and those that make a difference in the community. This program is brought to you, as always, by your sponsor, Gomez Trial Attorneys, a national law firm that represents consumers that have suffered personal injury, employment wrongs, civil rights violations. We are a firm that offers legal services of the very highest quality in Spanish language and in a culturally sensitive way. We pride ourselves on our representation of our Latino clients. Today we have with us first a co-host who joins us for the first time, who is Ariel Sarin, who is a recent graduate of the University of California, Berkeley. She's been working with us over the summer as a law clerk. Is off to continue her career at Santa Clara University School of Law, where it's my understanding that you qualified for and received some awards for your academic prowess. So welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you growing up and how you got to where you are, Ariel.
Oh, thank you very much, John, for the intro. So I'm born and raised here in sunny San Diego, California. And I graduated from Cal back in 2022. My first job out of college was right here at Gomez Trial Attorneys, and I've had the privilege of serving a predominantly Latino clientele. I'm really happy to be here with John. We do a lot of work in the community, and for me, it's mostly affirming core beliefs I've had since I was a child. I grew up in a system-impacted family, and I carry their story with me as a first-generation college student.
Love it. So I think you're a perfect person to help me interview our guest, who is Adam Peña, who's an immigration lawyer practicing right here in San Diego, who really has achieved some notoriety and fame as a person who themselves received a letter from the Department of Homeland Security, which started with, "It is time for you to leave the United States." And so welcome to our show, Adam.
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Gomez. Ariel, thank you for joining in. Good afternoon. It's good to be here. I'm still here, Mr. Gomez.
I'm glad you beat the system,
Yes.
beat the rap. And so, Ariel, you told me you have these core values. Do you have feelings about what's happening to our community right now with these ICE raids and enforcement actions?
Absolutely, I do. And I've actually, through the law firm, I've had an incredible opportunity to participate in ICE out protests. Here we're coming together as a community to say enough is enough, and in any way that I can make an impact, and even if that's a small impact, going on a march, connecting with someone who has a different status than I do, and listening to their story, checking in on my neighbors. Those have been all kind of my day-to-day life since this administration.
Well, as we get into it, Adam, maybe you can give us some tips for how we can help. But, we always start with, tell us a little bit about you growing up and where you're from and how you ended up being a lawyer. So take it from the beginning.
Sure. Thank you very much again for having me here, Mr. Gomez. I appreciate it. So as you already mentioned, I'm Adam Peña. I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. It's the second largest port of entry into the United States. The first being, as we all know, San Diego, Tijuana, or San Isidro, Tijuana. In El Paso, we're right across Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico. And I was born there, born to a single mother She is a retired public school teacher, and she taught in a predominantly Latino community, low socioeconomic neighborhood, very similar to communities out here, whether it's City Heights or Barrio Logan, National City, for example. And I had the option of, I guess, attending another school, schools that were closer to where we lived, which was north the freeway. El Paso and like many cities across the country, you have the freeway that divides communities, income levels and stuff. So, but my mom made the conscious decision of sending me to school in El Paso's what they call the Lower Valley. And again, it's predominantly Latino, lower income folks. And I attended Riverside High School and graduated from there. I was a valedictorian.
There you go.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Same high school as one of your previous guests, the Honorable Judge Salas Mendoza.
She's a Riverside High graduate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. And so I decided, when I was in high school, that I wanted to leave my hometown and go to a university, outside of my hometown. My whole family is all in El Paso, and so I would be the first one to leave. And I was really, and I still am interested in cinema. And so I was like, I want to go to film school. And I went on to attend film school, the School of Cinematic Arts at the University of Southern California in LA.
Go Trojans.
Yes. And, I had other options to go to other schools, in California.
But that's like the top program, right?
It is not to flex, but, I was like, I want to go to the best film school. And so, it was such a great experience, making films, student films, at USC. We had to fund those all on our own, surprisingly. And, I was there with scholarships and grants and a generous amount of financial aid that they provided me. And so, I graduated from USC, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go work in the industry. And lo and behold, it's at the end of the day, making films, it's an art form, right? And so I was being supported after I graduated. Obviously financial aid had already run out at that time. So my family, my mom and my brother were supporting me as much as they could. And
you kept telling them, don't worry, I have the next Star Wars is going
right?
to be next month.
Yes. And so it's extremely, extremely competitive. I mean, everybody around the world wants to go to Hollywood and make something of themselves, right? And so...
and most of them are from El Paso. they have like an uncle there. It's all connections, right?
True,
relationships.
True. Yeah. And... I was there for 6 months trying to make it. And the thing about LA, it's a whole other beast. Filmmaking business, Hollywood is a whole other beast. And most of the time, it may have changed now, but back then, you're expected to intern for free for not just months, but for a year or several years. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be sustainable. So yes. I went, so, I had 6 months and I'm like, you know what? This is not sustainable long-term. I mean, more power to the people that, are in it and trying to, make movies and stuff. But, being a Latino, coming from a single parent household, I had to reevaluate my situation. And so I went back home to El Paso, and there I got involved in my community, and I Actually, El Paso is basically like it's a park desert. If you've heard of food deserts, basically the same thing. There's not a lot of parks. There's not a lot of green space, public recreation space. So I advocated for a park in a lower income community. And I got all the stakeholders involved, and I was able to get that park built. It's about a $5 million park.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and so I did that.
So if we go to Peña Park in El Paso, we know.
I guess low key, I kind of wish it was named after me, but no, they actually named it after the. I believe it was like the owner of the land or something.
Yeah, of course.
and so yeah, I got the park built, and then the city councilman liked my work and my advocacy, and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna run for mayor. Do you want to run my campaign?" And I was like, "Okay, sure, why not?" And I was the youngest mayoral campaign manager in the city's history, and at that time, it was the 19th largest city in America. So I was like, "Okay, let's do this." And he was progressive. Educated lawyer, put in a lot of work, and came in second, lost to a car salesman.
Oh,
and salesman. That probably sounds familiar, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to political campaigns, losing to salesmen. So and I was like, okay, well, I gotta figure out what to do next. And, I loved advocating. I loved canvassing. I loved speaking to people. I loved taking on issues in the community, recognizing where there were problems and trying to find solutions. And I said, you know what? There's no better place than becoming a lawyer and going to law school. And so I decided to go to law school. I went to the University of Colorado, law school in Boulder. I'd never been to Colorado, but I said, I want to try something different. I'm gonna go to a state I've never been to before. And so, yeah, I did my 3 years there, and I did a summer. So what brought me to San Diego? You probably are asking. I did a summer during law school at the public defender, and the San Diego County public defender up in North County, in Vista. And that was my first long-term experience, living in San Diego for a few months. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, I know Vista's not San Diego, but it's North County, it's San Diego County. And I said, you know what? I love the San Diego area. I could see myself, living and practicing here once I graduate. So that's why I'm here. And I graduated from law school. All my professors in Colorado, all my classmates, friends, why do you want to go to California? The market is so saturated with attorneys. Also, you're going to have to take the hardest bar exam in the country. You're going to have to learn all these California specific subjects for the bar exam. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? Like, I'm up for the challenge. But really, my heart has always been with California. I think I've outgrown my home state, Texas. I've also felt like I've aligned myself more with California, and I'm a big believer in California's progressive policies that, when we look at a lot of the laws that get made or that get taken national, basically they come from California, right? And there's a saying here in California, as California goes, so goes the nation, right? So I'm like, California is my place. I also, my great-grandmother lived in East LA, in Boyle Heights, for over 75 years. So I spent my spring breaks and summers visiting my great-grandma in Boyle Heights. And so I've been here already for 6 years straight, after passing the bar exam, and I love it. I don't think I would live anywhere else.
Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you look around at our mural here, that was painted by Jessica Lujan's dad, who was from El Paso.
Yep.
And like one of that priest right there, is a priest that I don't know his name, but that had some influence on Jessica going to law school. So we're glad you're here with us in California, but we wanted to give you like a little taste of home. And so what'd your mom think when you say, "Hey mom, I want to go to law school"?
My mom has always been supportive of me. And she's always told me, "Mijo, anything you want to do, I support you, we support you." And I think that tends to be very symbolic and emblematic of Latino parents. I think the fact that, if, as a Latino parent, your child wants to do something, they want to do something greater. A lot of them tend to support that. And so, my mom, she was like, she probably also saw it, like the fact that I love to speak, I love to help people, I like to, take on an issue or a cause and find a solution to it. And so she supported it. I know it sounds kind of like a weird jump from going to film school or wanting to make movies to, being a lawyer. But, and I got asked that question a lot, like, because usually people that are, your classmates in law school, like they did economics, they did psychology, they did poli-sci, or even mathematics or something. But, sometimes it's kind of rare when you hear somebody from the arts, especially, going to film school. For me, it was the fact that, when we look at some of the greatest movies that are made, right? You have an underdog and you want that underdog to succeed, right? And a good movie or a good story is when you can get the audience to root for that underdog, right? You persuade them. You strike something in the audience that, they in turn empathize with this individual, right? And sometimes this individual isn't perfect, they're human, they have flaws, right? But you humanize this person. And in many ways, being a lawyer is the same thing, right? You're telling the story of your client and you're going to bat for that client. And you want the audience, could be a jury, to empathize with your client. And maybe if they don't empathize with your client, you can at least get them to question, like, hey, is this client or is this person that's being tried, for example, are they really guilty? Maybe not. Maybe I don't want to put them away. I don't feel comfortable doing that, So I think there's a lot of overlap. You're telling at its very core, you're telling the story of your client.
And so, when you were in law school, did you ever, as part of your curriculum, or did you ever dabble in a little, documentary or short film, or as part of like a law school project, anything like that?
Mr. Gomez, I'll be honest with you. I went to law school in Colorado, at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And I don't know if you've ever been to Boulder. It's a beautiful town. They call it it's basically like the Portland of the Rockies, right? Because Denver's kind of considered the Seattle of the Rockies. And so there was just so much to do. The quality of life is amazing. It was voted, continuously, the most or one of the most livable cities. And so I never went out. I was in the library. After class, I went straight to the library. I was in the library for probably anywhere from 4 to 6 hours every day, pretty much. Maybe I took like a Saturday or Sunday off. And so I really wish hindsight is 20/20, I know, but if I could go back and change something about law school, it probably would have been maybe going on a few ski trips or snowboarding trips or camping trips with my friends and my classmates. But no, to answer your question, I wish I would have had the time to make films while I was in law school. But as a first generation lawyer in my family, it was a different experience for me, and it was quite difficult for me because it was a new way of reading cases, understanding cases, and just thinking in general in that way. So I wish I would have had time to make movies, but I still want to make movies.
Yeah. Well, I had the similar experience. I was so terrified when I was at law school. Like we, at my school, we didn't have grades first semester, and but we have finals after Christmas.
Okay.
And so all the kids, everybody goes home for Christmas. I was in New Haven, Connecticut at the time. I stayed there because I was so terrified that even though we had no grades, I was somehow going to get kicked out. So I was the same. All I ever did was study.
Yep.
When I was in law school. So I get it.
Well, I do have one question, just based on everything you've shared, your perspective, especially within the last 6 months. How concerned should all Latinos in this country be right now about what we're seeing unfold, especially at the speed of which we're seeing everything unfold?
Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but I think we all need to be concerned and vigilant about what's going on. Here's the deal. When you look at the folks that are getting detained and the people that are getting deported, most of those folks, I think studies have come out, reports have come out that some 55 to 65% of those individuals, if not more, have no criminal history. And when you look at those that are going through that, most of them are Latinos. And so, I do feel that this government is racially profiling folks, because I will tell you, I have friends that are white, and they tell me, there's undocumented white folks here, whether they're Italian, Ukrainian, other white folks here that are undocumented. They're not being harassed. They're not getting looked at or anything like that. And so, I would say, in terms of, what Latinos can do, obviously, if you're a U.S. citizen, you want to make sure that you carry your birth certificate, a copy of it at least, and your passport with you, in case you were to be questioned. You can get into the whole back and forth with the agent, oh, I have the right to remain silent. I'm not answering your questions. Is this a lawful stop? You can get into all that legality, but if they're already if they don't care about that, and that's what we're seeing, right? They're just literally going up to people and they're, arresting them, then you want to have that information to show them, hey, look, I'm a U.S. citizen. For folks that are looking to adjust their status, right, because they qualified, I would recommend that, obviously if they already submitted their applications, whether it's for a green card, or maybe this person is applying for citizenship, I would suggest that they show proof that they submitted those immigration applications and that their immigration case is pending with USCIS. On the other side, if this is somebody that's in removal proceedings, I would show that, the agent, this person is, submitted their asylum application, they're in court, it's being processed, It's going through the court process. And for those that are undocumented, I would suggest, consulting with an immigration attorney to see if maybe you qualify for some immigration benefit, right? There's immigration benefits out there or forms of relief that you could potentially qualify for, right? Maybe you were a victim of a crime. And so you can look into a U visa, right? And see if that, pertains to you. And also maybe you might have an asylum case, right? Or other forms of immigration. There's the VAWA, the Violence Against Women Act, that visa. If you were abused, for example, that's something that you could look into. But obviously you want to look or speak to an immigration attorney about that. Now, in terms of, if you feel like you don't qualify for anything, I think you should still go speak to an immigration attorney. Obviously, if the immigration attorney tells you don't qualify for anything, then unfortunately, I would just say, keep a low profile. Know your rights, right? So, and I'm so glad that there's so many organizations and so many individuals out there that are putting out these know your rights, whether they're giving these presentations or they're putting these door hangers on people's doors, or I'm sure you guys have heard of the red cards, which basically cover your basic rights, particularly your Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. One side is in English, the other side is in Spanish. It's small enough to fit in your wallet. And so, if you're in that position where you get approached by law enforcement, then obviously you just let them know, like, am I being detained? And, if they do detain you, then you just, you reserve your right to remain silent and you demand to speak to an attorney. Obviously, if these individuals are appearing at your home, if ICE is appearing at your home, then you want to make sure that, they have a valid warrant if they want to come in. And that needs to be a warrant that's signed by a judge or a magistrate. But if the warrant is not signed by a judge or a magistrate, and it's signed by like a supervisor within the department or within ICE, then that's an administrative warrant, and that doesn't give them the right to enter your home, for example. So little things like that, also just to just informing people of what's going on, knowing their rights. And if you're at a restaurant, agents come in. If you're in a public space in that restaurant, then, they're allowed to be in there. But if, you're looking at a private space, so for example, the kitchen, the restaurant manager's office, right? Then unless they're given permission by somebody with authority or perceived or somebody that they can perceive as having authority, then they would need a warrant to search those areas, right? So little things like that, I think are helpful for Latinos to know. And also there's an app out there called, I believe it's called Ice Block. Let me double check just so I can.
It's the new app, right?
Yes, it's called Ice Block. It's called Ice Block, and that's an app you can have on your phone, and it will tell you of like areas where ICE agents are present, so you can avoid those areas.
That's a good app.
Mm-hmm.
And so, are we all allowed to, if we download that app, we're allowed to provide information if we,
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like a real-time monitoring?
Yes. Yeah, I believe, I think it was on CNN, they interviewed the developer of the app. And I think, I haven't read the article, but I saw an article, was it today or yesterday? I don't recall, but basically the Trump administration is fuming over this app.
Yeah. I'm sure that they're either going to sue that person or arrest that person or threaten to do both.
I feel like they're gonna intimidate him, at the very least, in some way. And Mr. Gomez, I think this is a good point to raise, and I want to thank you for your outspokenness, for your advocacy that you're doing for the community, for Latinos and immigrants, and just the most vulnerable folks in our society. I know you participated recently it was like the Ice Out parade or event in El Cajon. I appreciate that, and I believe your firm is also involved with with some of the Pride events that are taking place. But I also realize that you're putting the law on the line, and what's alarming to me is we're seeing this administration basically use like authoritarian style tactics to intimidate not only judges in the judiciary, but also attorneys and law firms. And I'm sure you're well aware of some of those firms, those huge, big law firms that basically made a deal with the administration, and they said, we're going to provide you with millions of hours of pro bono. And I feel like it was a little bit of a quid pro quo, because it was like, if you just leave us alone, but we'll provide pro bono for you all, for the government or for the administration or something like that. And so, but I also know there's other firms that have also taken the other path and said, you know what, no, like, we're not gonna, we're not gonna only represent clients that are in the best interests of this administration, and so I appreciate the fact that, you being the CEO and the leader of, Gomez Trial Attorneys.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, history will judge us all.
Absolutely.
And, whatever we have, our first core value here is we always do the right thing. And so, for us, sticking up for our friends and neighbors who have lived a decent, hardworking, family-based life is the right thing, regardless of where they may have been born or not born. And the irony, of course, is that we're here on indigenous land that it was historically then, Mexican land, to pretend like we have some superior right to, stand alone on this land, to me at least, is, not right.
Absolutely.
But speaking of intimidation, what is this, Ariel?
This is the notice of termination of parole from Homeland Security. And, just reviewing it, even if it is some kind of administrative error, like the administration has claimed, I think even if I was a licensed attorney and I had something like this in front of me, I would feel definitely thrown for a loop. I would feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think it's really admirable that, you, after getting this sort of letter, continued.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, that's the only option, is we have to keep going, and we can't be intimidated by, people who come in here and, as John said, think they have a right to, oppress others who, quite frankly, were here on this land first.
Yeah.
So what did you do when you got this?
I appreciate what you said, Ariel. And I'm still here, obviously. I have not self-deported, as the letter or the notice says. So I received this letter to self-deport in my email. It was in my inbox on the night of Thursday, April 11th. And it was effective. It went into effect the following day. No, I'm sorry, Thursday, April 10th. Apologies. You can see it in the top part. So I received it the night of Thursday, April 10th, and then I go to the office Friday, April 11th, and I log in, and first thing I do, like a lot of us, we open our emails, we open Outlook, and I saw it there, and I read it, and I'm like, this is weird. And I noticed though that it's addressed that it says to Adam Peña, and it's my work email, and this isn't an email that was forwarded to me from a client. And so I said, wow, okay, so it's addressed to me, and it's telling me that and as you said, I think prior to this, when we were talking right now, Mr. Gomez, it starts off with this very ominous sentence that says, "It is time for you to leave the United States." And then it goes on to say that apparently I'm currently here because I was paroled in for a limited period, and that DHS is now exercising its discretion to terminate my parole. And then it says, unless it expires sooner, your parole will terminate 7 days from the date of this notice. If you do not depart the United States immediately, you will be subject to potential law enforcement actions that will result in your removal from the U.S. unless you have otherwise obtained a lawful basis to remain here. Any benefits you receive in the U.S. connected to your parole, such as a work authorization, are also terminated. And then it goes on to say that I will be subject to potential criminal prosecutions, civil fines and penalties, and any other lawful options available to the federal government. Basically, being deported is an option. And then, again, it says DHS encourages you to leave immediately on your own. They tell me if I need more information on how to leave, I can use their CBP Home mobile app. And then it ends with, again, DHS is terminating your parole. Do not attempt to remain in the United States. The federal government will find you. Please depart the United States immediately. So if you picked up on some of those, some of the sentences that were used, and very ominously saying, you need to leave. We will find you. It's the same message that is being aired right now in the commercials with DHS Secretary Noem. And I think there's about 2 or 3 of them out already. And so she basically says the same thing. And so when I got it, I was like, okay, this is weird. What do I do? And so I wasn't the only one that received it. A coworker of mine received it. He's not an attorney. He's an accredited representative. Basically, he's allowed to represent clients in immigration court as a non-licensed attorney, but you get accredited through the Department of Justice. And so he got it too. He's also U.S. born. I'm U.S. born as well. And it was alarming. But it also wasn't surprising, considering the fact that this administration is using very aggressive tactics, not only to detain folks, but also to intimidate people, whether they're intimidating immigrants or they're intimidating lawyers and law firms. The American Bar Association and even the California Bar Association. Actually, the Kel Bar, in response to this, put out a statement, and I believe it was, who was it? I think it was the local Telemundo and NBC affiliate here in San Diego. That reporter reached out to the Kel Bar, and the Kel Bar put out a statement, and this was the reporter that had interviewed me for this, and the Kel Bar came out and said that they, this is, they don't stand for their attorneys being, intimidated by the federal government. And I'm just paraphrasing here. And they said this can interfere with the practice of law for the attorneys. And, that basically they said that can't be happening. Like, we're not going to allow that to happen on our watch. So I appreciated that by the Kel Bar. And so I think it's, the Department of Homeland Security put out a statement, fairly quickly once other attorneys across the country came forward and they said they received the same notice. They said, that I may have been the unintended recipient, may have been being in quotes, unintended recipient being in quotes, and that it was, it could have been because the client used a known email address, an email address that was provided to them by their attorney. And so, yes, my clients have my email address, but I confirmed with them and they never said that they used my email address. My clients have ties in some way here in the United States. They have family members, they have friends, some of them even have sponsors. And so they use those contacts, information. And like I said, this isn't a forwarded email from a client. And the other thing is that when the clients use, or, when the clients have to put their information, put their phone number, for example, or their email address, they'll use somebody that they know, which is a family member or a friend or a sponsor. But also too, when their information was recorded by the government, I had not started representing them. The government gets their information when they apply for parole, for example. And then they'll do their check-ins with ICE. They'll update them on their contact information. Sometimes, well, actually, where I work, our representation comes in after the fact. So these are people that have just been detained, for example. And so that's where my representation comes in. So they had already given the government their information. And so it just doesn't make sense that they would use my information. And I confirmed with them and they were like, no, we didn't give your information to the government. Even those that are detained, like, I get they don't have access to email, but they have loved ones that they provide their email address. So yeah, it was pretty bizarre. And I don't mean to be long-winded about this, but yeah, it was bizarre. And obviously I'm not backing down. I'm still here, and I'm still representing people.
Good stuff. So where can our viewers or listeners find out more about, what's the organization you work with right now?
So I'm a nonprofit attorney, immigration attorney at La Maestra.
La Maestra.
Yeah, La Maestra Community Health Centers. So La Maestra is just a really quick background. It's actually a medical clinic, and they have an immigration department.
Okay.
And so we work on immigration cases. We're small, and so we, for the most part, our services are free. And obviously, we do an intake. We make sure that you qualify, and yeah. So there, I'm there, and yeah, that's it.
Is it lamaestra.org?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And we offer various services besides immigration. There's everything from, just like clinic services, medical clinic services. There's behavioral health. There's like mental health services. There's dentistry. There's vision. So you can go see an optometrist. There's just so much. And one of the services that's offered are immigration services.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on their Instagram page here. It says La Maestra Community Health Centers.
Yes. They have a few locations around San Diego.
And one in National City I saw.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all the places you were talking about where people need help.
Yeah.
How can people find out more about you? Are you like anywhere on social media, any of those things?
Sure. I'm not too, I don't have a TikTok or Twitter or X is what it's called now, right? I do have an Instagram. And so I do tend to post a lot of, just thoughts about everything that's going on. And, obviously, those opinions are my personal opinion. It's not reflective of, anything else. And so my Instagram handle, or, how they can find me, it's Adam Mark Penn. And so that's spelled ADAMMARC and then PEN.
All right, cool. I'll check it out.
Penn.
Adam Mark.
Mm-hmm. MARC.
Okay, cool.
Penn.
Adam Mark Penn.
Yeah.
Check him out, follow him, support him. Well, my final question for all our guests, I take it from this guy. Osotava he's a Mexican entrepreneur. He has a podcast called Cracks. And he always ends the podcast. He says, if you could write a message in the sky for millions to see, what words would you write?
Oh, okay.
That's a good one. I guess I would say this, and I think this is just more in general of how I operate as an attorney. So as an American, as an immigration attorney, I'm committed to justice. I will always demand that this country, built on native land by enslaved hands and made great by immigrants, lives up to its promise of liberty and justice for all. In fact, I think it's one of the most patriotic things to be able to hold this country accountable, to challenge it relentlessly until its reality matches its ideals, right? So it's about ultimately making sure that this country fulfills its promise of being that more perfect union.
Wow, that's a mic drop moment to end our podcast. Those are words to ponder, and thank you for them. I think it would benefit millions to see those words and live those words and reflect those words. So I want to thank you again, Adam, for your contributions and leadership in our community. Thank you for helping so many. Thank you for being such a soldier of justice, and for being on our podcast. I want to thank our co-host Ariel, who's going to be leaving us here in about 3 weeks to begin her studies at law school. I know that what you've heard today will leave an impression in your mind, and I think give you greater clarity in the work that you do. And I want to thank all of our listeners for always tuning in, listening to The Latino, where we discuss the intersection of law in our Latino communities. At this time, what we're seeing happen, could be more described as the intersection of lawlessness in our Latino communities. So I think it's super timely and great that you were a guest today. And so that wraps things up for today. Again, thank you both.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Latino Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.